We're about to begin the services for the Honorable Alan Joel Greiman. We welcome everyone here at the chapel as well as the many who are watching online. Just a gentle reminder for those of you present here at the chapel, if you have a cell phone with you, please place it in the silent mode or turn it off completely. That would be appreciated. The services this morning will be conducted by Rabbi Samuel Gordon and cantorial soloist Kenneth Lyons-Wright, both from Sukkot Shalom in Wilmette.
For those of you here and those of you who are joining us online, your presence is a testament to what a remarkable human being Alan was. He was extraordinary, unforgettable, a true character, and larger than life physically, and I can say that at my height, but also in terms of his character, his personality. It was just extraordinary. I know today the weather is not great, and it's going to get worse, but Alan would still be sitting outside of his building at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, smoking a cigar underneath the awning, no matter what the weather was. And when his girls were younger, they would drive around in the car with the windows open, and he would say, "Life is beautiful. You have to enjoy it. Let the air in while you can." You know, when you entered, you may have heard music from show tunes. Alan loved show tunes and loved musical theater. And his favorite musical was Pal Joey. He died Monday, Valentine's Day. You could hear Kim Novak singing "My Funny Valentine." So we celebrated his 90th birthday less than 2 months ago. We are celebrating his life today as well. It's a time of loss and mourning, but it is also a time to share extraordinary memories, to keep his spirit alive among us. He was really an unforgettable character, and not just as a bon vivant, not just as a world traveler, but also of true values and standards and belief in people and in the goodness of this nation and of its true values. And while there's much to rejoice about who he was, we should also pay tribute to what he did and what he accomplished and how he made this world a better place. In looking for comfort and understanding, traditionally we look to text, to Book of Psalms and others. From Psalm 121, Esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri, Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my hope? My hope comes from the Eternal One, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Eternal One is your guardian. Adonai is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Eternal One will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul. You're going out and you're coming in from this time forth and forever. Psalm 121.
Esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Esa einai אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ, עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ. אשא עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי.
Let us turn to Psalm 23. In your booklet, we can read together, Adonai ro'i lo esar binot deshayar bitseni, al me menachot yinakaleni nafshi oshevev. Let us join in these words. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We are very much in the midst of winter, and at least in Chicago, we know the changings of the seasons. And so winter is followed by spring, summer, fall. And we know that in the darkness and cold, there is the hope of warmth and of the sun. And so too, when we experience the seasons and the changes in our own lives, we go through times of loss and of darkness. But what follows is the warmth of memory and stories and that which is undying. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. These words by Hannah Senesh, there are stars in the sky whose warmth we only experience long after they are gone.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brighter, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember, as we live our days. These are the ways we remember, יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ונע יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו אורות אלה המבהיקים בחשכת הליל הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך
I am sure any one of you in this room could be up here and deliver a eulogy, a memory, a story. We're going to ask Larry Suffredin to share thoughts first, and then Barbara Shaw, and then members of the family.
Good morning. I want to thank Julie and the family for letting me say a few words. I met Alan when he was a legislator, and I was a lawyer who represented a company that Alan wanted to regulate. Other lawyers warned me to be careful because Alan might want to destroy my client. I learned, though, that he was a caring person and that I could negotiate with him. And together, through the years, we negotiated a number of pieces of legislation. In the end, he became one of my best friends. How do you talk about someone who every person here remembers as one of their best friends? Your memories and your interactions are truly the best tribute to Alan. The printed obituary is beautifully written and uses words to describe Alan as brilliant, impactful, and bon vivant. It only mentions joy once, and that is in this sentence. Individually and collectively, they, his wonderful wife, his precious daughters and spouses and remarkable grandchildren and great-grandchildren, filled him with joy. This makes sense because family was the most important thing in his life. I want, though, to reverse that sentence and discuss how Alan filled all of us with joy and made this world a better place. This morning, I hope to point out a number of joyous moments with Alan, and in turn, I hope that those moments will lead you to remembering your own joyous moments with Alan. Now, I know Alan was not just about being a joyful person and that he endured tragedy and defeat in his life, but he also always overcame them. Family was key to joyous moments in his life. He loved Julie, his daughters. With them and the rest of the family, he had an enthusiastic sense of adventure and travel. Alan looked so forward to any gathering of family, any trip, or attending meals or other gatherings with his good friends. His love of family and friends gave us another joyous moment with Alan. It's appropriate that we are here in Skokie today because this is the town where his adult work as a legislator started. And as so often happened with Alan, food was a big part of that story. Alan was one of the most progressive legislators to serve in Illinois, passing hundreds of laws on every subject you can think of. He fought harder than anyone to pass the Equal Rights Amendment. He also protected his good friend Abdur Mikva's congressional district from political intrigue. How did someone get all that done and still have time to get funding for the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts? The answer? Hard work and a lot of breakfasts and lunches at the Desiree, which had the best desserts in town, and the Barnum and Bagel, which had the best soups in town. While the two restaurants are long gone, it was there that Allen met friends, allies, opponents, and over food gained their support for his initiatives with his tenacity and his charming wit. These meals were the important cornerstone of a legislative career that saw him become an assistant majority leader and preside over the House on critical votes. His legislative career gives us another joyous moment with Allen. When Allen became a judge and then a justice of the appellate court, he followed the same playbook, having breakfast every day at the Round Table at Petros's restaurant. Now, I'm not sure what it's famous for in terms of its menu. There he breakfasted with learned leaders of the law. Anyone who walked by or was invited to sit with the Round Table leaders saw Allen discussing many issues and imparting his wisdom with humor and love of the law. His thoughtfulness and friendships at the Breakfast Round Table led him to being elected the longest-serving Chief Justice of the Illinois Appellate Court. He also authored hundreds of thoughtful opinions that improved the lives of all. His judicial career gave us another joyous moment with Allen. Before we leave food, though, I want to tell you of Allen's exceptional skill as a chef who could cook for large numbers in a small kitchen, producing great feasts. While the food was spectacular, the travelogue commentary of where the food came from was often more interesting. Allen got his bread at D'Amato's, he got his meat on Randolph Street, the vegetables at South Water Street, and so on and so on. Allen was the happiest chef and loved to talk and work at the same time. His chef career gave us another joyous moment with Allen. Nothing stopped Julie from getting Allen wherever he needed to go. Julie and Allen were invited to a dinner in Ottawa, Illinois. That's down there where it's snowing today right now, I think. The dinner was to be in an historic house near where one of the Lincoln-Douglas debates was held. Julie rented a van that accommodated Allen's wheelchair and got him to Ottawa. When Allen got to the house, he found that the dinner was to be on the second floor. He asked, "Where is the elevator?" He was told, "Oh, we don't have an elevator, but we have a chairlift." Well, the chairlift looked like it had been there for the Lincoln-Douglas debates. He said the trip up and down those stairs reminded him of rides at Riverview. So many of the joyous stories of Allen and his family and friends start with Julie's thoughtfulness. Where's Julie? There she is. Okay. His openness to adventure gave us another joyous moment with Allen. Music was important, as the rabbi said to Allen, and cabaret singers played a key part in his musical taste. One, Andrea Marcovici, considered Allen her #1 fan. We went with Julie and Allen to hear Andrea at a venue on Milwaukee Avenue, some little dive. When we arrived, we were immediately escorted to the table in the front. When Andrea came on, she immediately recognized Allen and introduced him. Allen sang along with her and even suggested songs she ought to sing. The crowd actually thought he was part of the act. His love of music gave us another joyous moment with Allen. He presided at more weddings than most rabbis, and every wedding had an Allen story. Ask me later about sneaking him into the Chicago Botanic Garden, his robe in a tote bag, to marry a couple in one of the gardens who couldn't afford to pay the fee that you needed to pay to have the garden as a wedding venue, and getting the robe off and back in the tote bag before the guard came. All of you here today have better stories that demonstrate Allen's joyous personality. Tell them to each other. Allen was always thinking, always looking for ways to improve any situation. His joy for life always came across. His whole life was another joyous moment with Allen. Finally, the cigars. I'm glad you mentioned them, Rabbi. They were certainly a joyous time for Alan. During the pandemic, as the rabbi said, he would sit in front of their building and have wonderful conversations with whoever came by. It was another joyous moment with Alan. Julie and family, thank you for sharing him with us. May his memory be a joyous blessing. Thank you.
It's a great honor to be able to speak with you today on behalf of my husband, Michael, and myself about our great friend, Alan. Since the late 70s, our lives have been intertwined with Alan's and Julie's. Larry talked about Alan's wonderful legacy of legislation and jurisprudence. I want to simply talk about the constant and beautiful friendship that Alan shared with us, and what a wonderful friend he was. For 45 years, we've shared vacations around the world, hundreds of meals, sometimes closing the restaurant, because our discussions would last for hours, so they were so rich, and weekends at the lake house he loved so much. He welcomed us into his extended family. He cherished his family in thousands and thousands of ways, especially his great love for our dearest friend, Julie. Along the way, we were introduced to many aspects of Jewish culture, including Alan's Yankee Doodle Haroset. Alan married us in the South Shore Cultural Center, a place that was near where he grew up, but where he wasn't allowed to enter back then. Through it all, Alan entertained us, fed us, and warmed us with his huge heart and profound sense of caring for the things that were important to him. Our family lore is filled with an endless stock of Alan's stories. We will miss this giant of a man. We were so fortunate to have so much time with him. But like all of us here, we are saddened at his passing, but we celebrate the wonderful life he lived. Thank you.
Larry mentioned Alan's love of family. He was an only child, and he made up for that by creating this extraordinary family that surrounded him, that he loved so deeply, that he saw as one, and he reveled in that family. Barbara mentioned the Yankee Doodle Haroset. It was a blend of his Americana and his Judaism. He wanted to make sure that there was cranberries in the Haroset that was authentically American. And his devotion to Jewish life and culture was molded into all those little pieces that were so important at the Passover Seder. And at the Seder, gathered with family around that table, his stories will continue to be told. And so his daughters will come up and share their thoughts with us. Ori? Bunny?
All right, this is going down. Daughter number 2, Lori, who was supposed to read this, is recovering from surgery. And daughter number 5, Tammy, who pretty much wrote this, is a border away. They are here virtually and I'm sure are feeling the love, and we are loving you. When our mom, Karen, married Alan in 1970, Lori, myself, and Tammy were 12, 10, and 8. Our new sisters went from having their own rooms to having their world turned upside down and getting roommates. How thankful we are that Lori, Judy, and Bunny accepted us. We will never forget how readily the big guy stepped into those empty shoes Mark Dad for us and lifted his new daughters up. We had adventures, so many adventures. He was fun, funny, kind, and brave. He made us feel so loved and protected every step of the way. He taught us valuable life lessons. He listened to us and gave us his best and fairest advice. He was there for us. We were never stepdaughters, and we were never had stepsisters. We were just a family with 6 daughters. Alan's presence changed our lives. He appreciated all of us as individuals, and he helped nurture us into the strong women we are today. Strong women, stay strong. To say we are grateful is an understatement. His presence changed our lives. He appreciated our gifts and said so openly. Everyone knows Alan was a prolific writer in his professional life. How lucky my sisters and his grandchildren are that he also wrote us beautiful letters. Well, except for maybe Shira, and she knows what I'm talking about, but to be fair, you deserve that. After a momentous point in time, a family vacation, days after 9/11, even when my daughter Maddie lost an election in grade school, he sent a beautiful letter. In addition to his being proud and quelling over her, he reminded her, be gracious in defeat and humble in victory. He always knew just what to say. And I'm just so grateful one of his last moments was to be able to, of official duty, was to marry Maddie and our beloved son-in-law, Adam, just this last August. After his 70th birthday, he sent us a note that read in part, one of the things that I am most taken with about the daughters is the love and respect you have for each other. That a parent loves a child or a child loves a parent is not so unique, but that sisters can hold each other with such love and respect is truly amazing. But then again, what the hell do I know? I was an only child. We have all been overwhelmed by so many beautiful messages from friends and family and people who we didn't even know. Our friend Kevin wrote me and said, I always have a little envy for those dear friends whose parents are still with them. Irrational to be sure, but such a gift when they stay with you for such a good period of time, having an impact beyond you and onto the next generation and the next. Your pop certainly did that. I never heard anything but reverence of his goodness from anyone who knew him. His gavel is now golden. Daddy-o, I know you can hear me. We will miss you more than words can describe, and our hearts will ache with a hole that can never be filled. We love you to the moon and beyond. Let me get down. Get me down. Get me down.
I'm Judy Greiman. This is Lori Greiman, Jody Moran, Bunny Evans, Lori Friedman, Tammy Friedman, Lori Coyle. Who he was changed on a day in September 1966 when Carol, our mother, died. That's the day on which he became, as a man, that's the day on which who he became as a man really took shape. That's the day when he came home and he scooped us up and he said, this will not define you. Let's go for it and embrace the world together. And he never stopped helping us to move forward. A few years later, he scooped up 3 more girls and put his arms around them and said the same thing. And together created this incredible family. And I know you've all heard stories about how proud he is of his daughters and his sons-in-law and his grandchildren and now his great-grandchildren, because that truly is his legacy. And he taught us all to embrace the world, to embrace change, to embrace others, to be curious, to figure things out, to find excitement in food and travel and art and the world around us and politics and strategy and life. I did this in a voice message that just kept going. And to care about each other and people around us and to care about everybody in this room. And he would have been so thrilled to see this packed room. He was blessed with 3 wives and had unique and special relationships with each one. And he and Julie had a love that is so deep and so profound and so sweet. Watching the 2 of them over the past few weeks and the past few years, as he became less of himself, the love that they shared and the caring for each other as he reached new places in terms of what he was physically or mentally able to do has been a lesson for us all, has been really beautiful. Julie kept him young, and as he said to me, when your young hot wife wants to get in the hot tub, you get in the hot tub. And he did figure out a way with his cane and his props at the beach house because he wanted to be in that hot tub with his young hot wife. As number 3 of our 4th generation of lawyers, I know how much he loved the law and loved being a lawyer, but man, being a judge was just the perfect role for him. He was the judge that all other judges called. He loved thinking it through. He loved the strategy of it. He loved finding ways to help people, to do common sense things. He took on challenges within the judiciary. He took on big cases, and he made a difference. And watching Jonathan become a lawyer, wherever you are, Jonathan, gave him great joy. He's the one person I know who valued each and every person as individuals, to be who they are, who they want to be. He didn't pressure us to be or do something that we didn't want to be or do, and he tried to pass that on to the grandchildren. He pressed all of us to take chances so that we would have opportunities to explore who we wanted to be, and he showered us with love while we tried to figure out ourselves and to determine our own place in the world. He was a true character who was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he was absolutely the warmest, sweetest, and kindest man. And he will be remembered for so many things: his friendship, his wit, his wisdom, his strategic mind, his judicial prowess. But for us, he will be remembered as an incredible father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and husband who captivated those around him and cared deeply about his family, his friends, and his community.
We will miss him deeply and ask that you all try to find the joy that he saw in life each day, and that you have a piece of chocolate, a big ale, and maybe even a cigar every Valentine's Day from now on to commemorate our guy.
And Jonathan Walton will come and speak on behalf of grandchildren. If they want to join him up here, please do.
I just want to say that the support that my family's received over the last few days has been truly overwhelming. All the people here, everyone watching, thank you so much. Everyone has come forward with a story about Grandpa, something memorable he said or did, some way that he touched them. I just want to thank everyone. It means so much to us. Today I have the privilege of sharing how our Grandpa shaped the lives of his grandchildren. And while I'm the one talking, I'm sharing the words of all his grandchildren: Shira, Maddie, Carly, Dan, Kara, and Maya. Yo, buddy, as he would say to us. I could say that we think you're pretty damn cool. I mean, a legislator, a well-respected judge, a father of 6, a Chicago legend, a guy with serious clout, someone with endless stories to tell, a writer, a sailor, a lover of cigars and chocolate and good food and bad food too. I share that with you. And of course, a dislike of exercise, which is great. A proud Jew, a feminist, a progressive, someone who's very well-traveled, a master of small talk, a guy who knows his as seen on TV kitchen contraptions, as you would say, an all-around good guy. And You did so much, Gramps, for me as you led me into what is a challenging and fulfilling career in the law. And yes, you pushed me to go to law school, but it really goes far beyond that. Because what I didn't get from law school was, what I would actually do with a law degree, what it meant in real life. And I got that from you. And the best part of law school for me was in between classes, meeting you at Petterino's, where your name was on the wall. And we talked to your friends, other lawyers, judges, politicians, and you shared with me endless war stories about your time in law practice, your time as a legislator, how hard you worked as a motion judge in Cook County, your tricks for getting parties to work through their issues without you having to come in, your tough calls on the appellate court. Your passion was contagious, and I caught it for the law. You not only shaped my life, Gramps, but you shaped all of our lives. I mean, you started a college fund for each of us, and we went to college with that money. You supported us through all of our activities, our passions. You came to just a ridiculous number of plays and performances, games and competitions. You jump on a plane to see us, even if we didn't have a big part. You always gave us a call on our birthdays, and if we missed the call, that meant we got a voicemail with you singing happy birthday. You officiated 2 of our weddings, making us part of the countless other families you brought together. But it's not only the big stuff, Gramps. It's how much you love the job of being a grandpa. And I think it truly showed in how you treated us as equals, not like we were little kids. You were interested in who we were and what we believed. You listened to us, you wanted to know what we had to say, and if you disagreed or thought we were wrong, you said it. You respected us in that way. You taught us so much about the world. We all spent hours chatting with you in your apartment or at the Thai restaurant downstairs. You shared with us your vast experiences, the knowledge you gained along the way. You taught us about Judaism and your own take on things. You taught us about social justice and your sense of right and wrong. And you took us on trips across the world to places like Israel, France, Italy, Spain, and more. And one thing that left a strong impression on all of us cousins is that nothing ever seemed to get you down. You always had that smile. You always saw the positive. And when you needed a cane to get around, you bought a really cool cane that was a conversation piece. When you took us all to Barcelona and it was hard for you to walk, well, you trekked through 90-degree heat, across the city, keeping up with the family. You never complained. You taught us that no matter how hard things get, never quit, always see the positive. And Gramps, you never took life too seriously. You always prioritized fun. You could be silly, you could be gross, hilarious, mischievous, often mischievous, and you didn't take yourself too seriously. You were just as willing to tell us a story about the times you screwed up as the times when you did something great. And it's no surprise to us that throughout your career, you've been called upon to solve some of the most difficult problems facing our city, facing our state. Because you've been solving our problems for years, and you've always been there for us in times of need, to shower us with love, your wisdom, your humor, to come to our defense, or to give us one of your signature big hugs. You're always there for us, Grandpa. You're each of our biggest fans, our guy. We wouldn't be the same without you. We love you.
There are so many stories to tell of a life that was so full, so well lived. Alan's love of travel brought him unique experiences. He talked about how he stared down the KGB in Moscow when he was coming to help Jewish refuseniks, and how, given his height and his physical stature, he could not be intimidated by them. At the same time, walking through the Marais in Paris, somehow getting himself invited to a bris and ending up as the sandak of this bris of people he had no idea who they were. But he became the life of that party. There is in London at St. Paul's Cathedral the memorial for Christopher Wren, the great architect of London. And it says on this memorial, Si monumentum requiris circumspice. If you seek my memorial, look around you. Christopher Wren had built much of London, and if you stood there on the portico of St. Paul's, you could see all of his buildings. Allen didn't build cathedrals or castles or great buildings, but he built relationships. He built relationships with people, anyone he met. He built deep, deep relationships with his family and his friends. If you seek his memorial, look around you. You are the ones who carry on his legacy. His story will be told. His values will be shared. The things he was committed to will be carried on by those whom he touched. You were all blessed by his presence these 90 years. May his memory continue to be an abiding blessing. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of this truly righteous man be a blessing for all time. Amen. O God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow-laden for consolation. O God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. If you're comfortable standing, please rise for the memorial prayer. El Malay Rachamim is also on the booklet.
El Malay Rachamim, Shochein, Shochein Bamromim, Hamtze Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfe Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Eliakum ben Moshe v'Nitza, Shehalach leolamo, Baal harachamim, Yastirehu beseter kanfecha leolamim, Utzror bitzror Hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachlato Ve'anuach b'shalom B'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Honorable Alan Joel Greiman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence within the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Please be seated for a few brief announcements. The interment will take place at West Lawn Cemetery, located in Norwich. If you're joining our procession, we will be providing the vehicles with an orange funeral sticker, which will be placed on your windshield, as well as a magnetic flag for the top of your car. Please keep in mind to use your bright headlights and emergency flasher lights at all times. The Shiva will be observed at the Greiman Hamos residence at 1240 North Lakeshore Drive, Unit 28B in Chicago, Thursday and Friday, beginning at 6 p.m. This information is listed in the service folder that you've received on the way in. If you did not receive one, they are available on the way out of the chapel today. And the family has asked that memorial contributions be made to the Illinois Hillel in Champaign, and that information is also in the folder. And for those of you online, it's also on our website. At this time, I'll ask Judge Greiman's loving grandchildren to please step forward to escort his casket from the chapel. Please rise at this time.